welcome to Players in Exile. My name is Phil, and in this video I'd like to talk about all of the information that's come out of Warhammer Fest 2022 online regarding the new plastic Horus Heresy miniatures. In case you've been living under a rock for the last few months, we've known about the Horus Heresy box set for quite some time. It's only now though that we're starting to get full details of the box set and some additional boxes that are coming out alongside it as well. So the Horus Heresy box set is going to be called Age of Darkness. One of the key things that they've announced is that it will be less than £200. That could mean it's going to be £199.99 or £199.95, but it's still, I think, at least £40 cheaper than the price point I'd been advised it was likely to be, which is £240. That, I think, makes it a pretty damn good buy. Let's have a look what you're actually getting the box for your £200, give or take probably 5p. First up, you get 40 Space Marines with the classic Wumble face. If you're not from the UK, Wumbles were a kids TV program way back when I was little. These are also called Beakies. The idea is that they're not chapter specific. There are no chapter markings on these miniatures. So you'll get 40 of them, and although you could share this box with another person, you could paint this box as two separate armies, as we may well see from the main picture at some point. I think what's most likely to happen for most people is that they'll turn this box into a battle force, and it will be the start of their main single army. And if I have deep enough pockets and I do buy this, that's exactly what I will do with it. I will turn it into a single army. So we'll look at some of these miniatures then. I think it's very interesting the way they've got bayoneted bolters. We don't see that anymore in 40k. They've long since lost bayonets. They carry daggers, but bayoneted bolters is an interesting design. Here you're starting to get a glimpse of the chest and how different the chest piece looks compared to what we're used to when we're playing with 40k. You can also see the bobbly shoulder pad that was so reminiscent of the metal miniatures that were first released for Warhammer 40k way back when Rogue Trader was a thing. I do like the sling attachment there and the fact that he's actually holding it. The banner's also quite nice. This one's interesting with a little servo skull. And then we're back to the sergeant with his... I don't like this. I actually really don't like this. Looks... I don't know if it's me, but it looks slightly wonky from the way the picture's posed. It was probably not, but it just looks slightly off centre. But I don't like it. I don't think I would use that head if there's an alternative option. You also get two Praetors. I think, from my personal perspective, looking at these two Praetors, it's very clear that this one is starting to verge onto your chaos sort of iconography, whereas this one you can imagine being painted ultramarines blue and being in a Warhammer 40k army and not even thinking twice about it, except for he's holding a Volkite gun. You can see the skulls are much more prevalent. He's got an axe. Axes tend to be more associated with chaos than they are with your classic Space Marines. Maybe with a few exceptions, but I don't think I'm wrong in saying that. He also kind of, the posing of him reminds me of the Death Guard, Lord of Contagion. But those are my thoughts. This one certainly looks slightly more like it's a chaos piece, and this person certainly looks more like he's a, I hasten to say on the good side, but on the side of the Emperor rather than on the side of chaos, shall we say. We've also got a posable Contempt Dreadnought. There was a plastic Contempt Dreadnought, I believe, in the original plastic Horus Heresy box set, which was out way before I sort of got back into the hobby. So I'm aware of it, but I've never really seen it. And I'm not personally a big fan of Contempt Dreadnoughts. I think they're a little bit plain and a little bit boring compared to, say, the Redemptor or even the classic Dreadnought. It's just my own personal opinion. still, it's a great thing to have in the box. I mean, just look at it. It's got Hellfire missiles. It's got a pair of autocannons, I think, and a fairly chunky looking power fist. So it's designed to be able to punch and then get up close and then tear things apart. Can't see more than that. Get some close-ups of it. I do like the guns. So the blurb says, what else could you possibly need? A tank, a transport? Why not both? The Spartan is bristling with lance cannon arrays and can transport up to 26 Space Marines in power armour. That's a very specific number, 26. I wonder how they came to that. The unit sizes must be different in Horus Heresy, I wonder. This is Land Raider size, isn't it? It's possibly a bit longer and less chunky than a Land Raider, but it's a big tank. You look at the fact it's got sponsons with quad las cannons, it's got a pair of heavy bolters. Obviously it opens up to discharge its troops from inside it. Got a little sort of heavy bolter that is pintle mounted. It's very nice. You also get 10 Terminators. Now I believe these are from the original set as well, and in places they do look a little bit chunky, but they are nice looking Terminators. The double shoulder pads are actually quite clever. This I think I would prefer if it was a more sort of brown leather colour. Same with this actually. Paint them whatever colour you want, that's the whole idea, isn't it? Here we go, the lightning claws to me. These look like very sort of chunky thick plastic. I think if these were a brand new sculpt, they would be sharper. Equally with the chainswords, I think they would possibly look slightly different as well. But I'm not trying to detract from them, to be honest with you. I'm picking the tiniest of holes. 40 Space Marines, 10 Terminators, the Spartan battle tank, the Contempt Dreadnought. Did I mention the Praetors? And the 2 Praetors. In addition to that, you get a rulebook. I don't know if it's me, but that rulebook looks chunky. You get a reference sheet. You get Horus Heresy transfers, but just for Imperial Fists. And is it the Sons of Horus? I've asked that before. Feel free to correct me. Dice, including the scatter dice. I have some original scatter dice floating around in my dice set. It'd be nice to give them a run out, considering we've stopped using them a long time ago. Templates. Horus Heresy uses templates. A lot of people love the idea of using templates, especially for things like flamers. They're not that keen on the new method of handling flamers, shall we say. And whippy sticks. Anyone that remembers some of the older sets will remember those. You'll probably just find their way into a box and you'll just use tape measures. And here it is. This is where it confirms it's less than £200 or $300 US. So let's think 195 or 295. There's a picture of everything together. So 40 Marines, 2 Praetors, 10 Terminators, the Spartan, it is a Spartan battle tank, and the Contempt Dreadnought. That is a decent start to any force. And that's where this differs, I think, from, let's say, Indomitus, where you've got 2 distinct forces. You've got the Necrons versus the Primaris Marines. This box set, although you could quite happily paint it as 2 separate factions, is designed, I think, with the idea that you'll turn it into one faction, and you'll pick the Praetor you want probably, and that will be the start of your force. Now that's the start of your force. There's some interesting things going on here. From what I understand from the rules of Horus Heresy, and I know very little about Horus Heresy rules, I will confess, you don't equip your Marines like a tactical squad, more like a Devastator squad, I think, but I think then all the weapons are the same. If you want to take, say, a plasma gun, all of your Marines will be armed with a plasma gun. If you wanted to take a flamer, all of your Marines may be armed with flamers. I think that's how it works. And it's equally true with heavy weapons. Now, they could have included all of these options in with these plastic Marines, but that may well have ended up being too cost prohibitive. So what they've done, which is really interesting, is to release box sets of weapons upgrades. In this box set you get 10 melter guns, 10 plasma guns, 10 Volkite calivers, 10 Volkite chargers, 10 flamers and 10 rotor cannons. I call them rotor cannons, they look just like assault guns to me. And then you get another box set. And in this box set you get 20 heavy weapons. So you get 10 heavy bolters and 10 missile launchers. One thing I'm interested in about these is, do you get the arms? And you must do, I think. You must get the arms to pose the missile launcher. This is your classic on the shoulder missile launcher. So you'll have one hand sort of holding it, one hand holding the trigger. And you can see the trigger handles there on that picture there, but there is nothing here, and I think that's been cut away. And I think that's why there's only 20 of them. I think it's because you get additional arms, etc., to be able to pose that on your Marines correctly. I also note that we're not seeing an example of it, just of the heavy bolter. And in this set, actually, looking at this set, maybe my previous argument about the extra arms, it goes a bit mute, because in this set you also get plasma cannons, heavy flamers and multi-melters, but the plasma cannon is in the same situation. You're going to need those arms to be able to pose it correctly. Again, it's a shoulder mounted weapon, whereas the multi-melters and the flamers, heavy flamers, are not. There's going to be people who play 40k scrambling for these, I think. These are going to sell really well. I just get that feeling. And there's another kit. This time has 10 Volkite culverins. They must be raiding the dictionary for C words for the different Volkite weapons. 10 las cannons and 10 auto cannons. Again, the las cannons are your shoulder mounted items here. You can see your Volkite's got its like power cables to its battery pack. And there's your auto cannons. These are very similar to the auto cannons we see on the Contempt of Dreadnought. These are weapons upgrades for Marines, but so far we've only seen the Marines in the main set. What they've also now revealed is that you're going to get box sets. Now note these are 20 Marines, so this is a tactical squad of 20, not 10 like you get in 40k, 20 Marines, so that will have a bearing on the price. And you've got Mark 6, Mark 4 and Mark 3. Don't want to Mark 5, don't ask me. So you've got different patterns of power armor, and of course there are people who are heavily into the Horus Heresy mythos, who are going to be heavily into the idea of being able to not just use beakies, but to be able to use Mark 3s and Mark 4s, and possibly mix them up. For all I know, you can see there's a real difference in the backpack on that one compared to that one, and even a difference with the backpack on that one. So they are very much different kits. You've got bobbles on the legs on this one. This one's got a very different chest. So the next thing we're going to talk about is, how do you get your squads of troops into battle? And they've already thought of this as well. Not only have you got your Spartan, which I presume will come out as a plastic set as well, but that's in the box set. They've revealed, I think it is a Demos pattern Rhino. It is a Demos pattern Rhino. So this is a new plastic Rhino based on a venerable old kit that we used to have available to us. I think this is a far better looking model than the current plastic Rhino. In fact, I think this puts the current plastic Rhino to shame. This is the current plastic Rhino with your sort of corn chaos treads, the sort of built-in smokestacks, if you like, and the flap for opening at the front. This has just got so much detail, so much more detail around the eye holes for the drivers. There's more armor plating underneath the smoke launchers. The stacks look better, the tracks look better, the doors look better. I think this is just showing that model kit design is that much more advanced than when the venerable Rhino plastic kit came out. This actually is a bit of a pain in the backside to put together. You can see actually on the top of here there is a seam where this doesn't fit together particularly well. I've noticed this on my own Rhinos, and I've spent ages trying to get rid of that seam. For my money, this is the better kit. Hopefully it's a similar price. If so, I think they're going to sell tons of these. I think people will start using these in Warhammer 40k battles. I wouldn't mind picking up one for my Death Guard army. I've got one of the other ones in my Death Guard. Rhinos seem to be quite useful at the moment in the Death Guard army, just for getting your people up there into battle, especially now Armour of Contempt is a thing. And the good news didn't stop there either. They released images and details of the Kratos. Kratos is a heavy main battle tank, I think is the best way of describing it. Apparently it sits between the Sicarian and the Fellblade, but for me it's bigger. This is bigger than a Spartan. I think it's bigger than a Spartan. I think this is probably the same size as a Repulsor Executioner. This is a Repulsor Executioner here. It's a much deeper, chunkier model, but I think looking at it, it is probably on a par with the size of this, which means this could be something like £65 for a plastic kit. We shall see, but that's the sort of price point I'm expecting at, 50 to 65, depending on where it sits alongside the Repulsor. It's got a massive battle cannon. You've got a pair of heavy bolters, and you've also got a pair of las cannons on either side. It's also got an auto cannon there, I think that is. And it has weapons options. I'm not going to discuss the relative merits of its weapons because I have no idea what Sunder means, or pinning, or armor bane, or gets hot. A large blast I do because it's a template based system. But yeah, those are there you go. Volkite Cardinal, another C word. I think they just pull the letters out of a Scrabble bag. That's what I think. There is the Volkite Cardinal, that huge Volkite weapon. It's also got Volkite guns on the side, the sponsors that you can use, and heavy bolters and sponsors you can use. Doesn't look like these are changeable to anything other than heavy bolters, unlike say on the Repulsor, where you had a double las cannon or a double bolter on that sort of similarly mounted weapons option. And this is interesting. This is the melter gun, and this looks like it's exhaust shielding of some description. That's the best thing I could come up with, like I would see on a motorbike to protect you from getting hot. Don't know if that's what it's supposed to be, but this does look like it's magnetizable, so it does look like you're going to be able to magnetize up here, put your magnet up here, and put your magnet on your weapon, so you can interchange your weapons, and magnetize in here, so you can also take it off and pop on a different weapon depending on how you wish to use it. It also has a huge, great big dozer blade, if you like, which looks pretty mean. Instead of having individual codices, what we're being presented with is Liber Astartes and Liber Hereticus. These again look like they're huge tomes. Look how deep they are. I have no idea what they're going to cost. These look like they're deeper than the current Space Marines Codex. I think that was 30. So these have got to be 35, 40. Maybe not. We shall see. In the Liber Astartes, you've got details for your 9 Loyalist Legions, and in the Liber Hereticus, you've got details for your 9 Traitor Legions. There are other factions that play in the Horus Heresy, and what we're being told is that they will be given their books at some time in the future. One last thing they've also said is they're going to release Gigor Fellhounded and Azek Ahriman as separate plastic kits. They were both available in the Burning of Prospero box set, and they haven't been available separately in many years since that came out. Now you're going to be able to use them. For me, I've often thought about getting into Horus Heresy, but I missed the original plastic box sets, and so it was always a disadvantage in that regard. And I'm not the greatest fan of Games Workshop resin models. However, my favourite chapter is the Dark Angels, and I will confess that the Dark Angels resin miniatures available from the Forge World are some of my favourite looking miniatures in the game. And if I do go into this, I will be getting some of them. you've got the Deathwing Companions, and these are partly the inspiration for my Dark Angels Primaris second founding chapter, which I'm still in the process of painting for my son. For a long time I had these as my wallpaper on my desktop just to keep them as reference. I genuinely think these are great looking miniatures, and they would look amazing on any battlefield, not just the Horus Heresy. They would look amazing if you use them as, let's say, Blade Guard on a Warhammer 40k battlefield. You've also got the Legion of the Inner Circle Terminators, which again are Cataphracti, I believe, Terminators, but they are so detailed and so nice looking. The biggest offput though from getting these is you're talking about 5 resin Terminators being £73.50. That is a fair whack of money. I mean, if it was £75, they would be £15 each. I think it's 15s, 30s, 60s, 75. Yeah, if it was £75, they would be £15 each. Which you could argue, for such detailed miniatures, each one looking a little bit like a character, isn't a huge amount of money. But compared to other sets of miniatures, that is a lot. We also have the Dark Angels Legion Prater. So rather than using the Praetors that are coming in the actual box set, I could opt to buy this one instead and use this one. And I think he does look cool. I would be very tempted to buy this. I know it's $26.50. I've just moaned at paying £15 a miniature, but that's kind of the price you're used to paying for captains, lieutenants, apothecaries, librarians, etc. when we're talking about playing Warhammer 40k. So I have no problem in spending that on this guy to have him as my Praetor in my army. However, there is also a Dark Angels Legion Praetor in Cataphracti Terminator armour. That's very wordy. He's £31. Does look nice though. He really does look nice. I can just imagine that being sorry, I've been distracted because the paintwork on the white on that tabard is terrible. If I zoom that in, you can see that's just typical Games Workshop white paint, I think. But that aside, sorry, got distracted. Still think it's a great looking miniature. I would like to have one. I think it would do great. I don't know the rules. I don't know how good it is. But yeah, I think it would do great, and I think I would enjoy painting that as a resin miniature. Not a fan of resin, but that to me is right up my street. There is another set of miniatures called the Interim Squad, and you can see here they're all armed with plasma guns. So harking back to the weapons upgrade sprues, you get units that are all armed with the same weapon, and these guys are all armed with plasma guns, except for you've also got the heavy plasma guys there as well. Ancient esoteric weapons, it's labelled as. Plasma guns, come on, that's what we know they are. There is also a Dark Angels Legion's Contempt Dreadnought, and I said before that I thought that the Contempt Dreadnought looked really boring. I think this doesn't prove me wrong, but it proves that you can actually make a Contempt Dreadnought look interesting. Look at the detail on the shoulder pads, look at the chest, look at the candles, look at the angel, look at the shields on the legs. It's a completely different beast, as it were. It would be nice perhaps to get one of these. It would also be nice to attempt to kit bash the plastic one. I don't think you'll get it the same, but there's the bits, for example, above the legs where you've got the layered armour plating. You could do that with just some plastic art. So there's things like that you could try just to make it a little bit more interesting. I'm sure you could also get an angel like that from the Dark Angels sprues that you've got for upgrading things like the Deathwing. All in all, going back to the box set at £200, I think it shows a commitment by Games Workshop to make Horus Heresy a viable game. They've been supporting it via Forge World for a long time, but now it's got so popular that they are willing to invest in making it a proper plastic miniatures game, supported by additional models from Forge World. It will be interesting to see how many of those specialist units that we've just looked at on the Dark Angel side, and of course all the other factions, make it across into plastic. I don't expect it to be huge numbers, but I could see it being a reasonable number. I can also see people taking the different tactical squads, taking the weapons upgrade sprues, and making things like the Interim Squad that you've got with the Dark Angels out of the new plastic miniatures themselves. It'll be interesting to see what people do with this. I think Horus Heresy is going to become a big game based on this, and you kind of almost would be a fool not to pick this up, because you can use so much of this. The Marines, admittedly, they're Mark 1 Marines, but the Terminators are used for. The Praetors could be Space Marine captains. The Spartan, hopefully you'll get 40k rules for it, and if you do, then we'll see a lot of those on the battlefield. The Contempt Dreadnought is already seen quite heavily on the battlefield. So, all in all, I think this will sell. I would like a set, but I have just invested in Star Wars Legion, so I may not be able to get a set. So I'm hoping this becomes the starter set that stays around for a while, and we are able to buy this in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months time. So there is less of a rush for me to go out and buy it like I had to with Indomitus? Yeah, Indomitus. Oh, right. Like I had to with Indomitus. I hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts on Horus Heresy and all I would like to do with this set, which is to paint it like Dark Angels and then perhaps invest in some of the Dark Angel specialist models. If you do get it, I hope you have good fun playing the game, whether it's painted into 2 separate factions like we're seeing on the screen at the moment, or you opt to make it 1 faction like I would do with it. Thank you very much for watching Players in Exile. If you have enjoyed this, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and come back next time.